Who was at Disrupt New York last year? Show of hands, a few of you. Do you guys remember Chamath Palihapitiya? He came up on stage and he was talking about how everyone's building stupid crap and that we need to be solving real problems. Before that ever happened, Justin Rosenstein wrote a blog post on TechCrunch in 2012 called Do Great Things. And it was along the same lines of, we need to be solving real problems. So he's actually going to come out and rehash that a little bit with a keynote speech. And then we're going to bring on Alex Wilhelm from TechCrunch, and he is going to kind of feel that out and ask a few questions about what Justin's talking about. So without any further ado, let's bring out Justin from Asana. Please give it up for him. Good luck.
In 1892, King Ludwig II unveiled what would be his greatest legacy, this castle. It had taken hundreds of people 23 years to get right, and at its peak, it brought delight to 6,000 daily active users. More recently, these guys were hanging out in their garage, and they were able to create, within a few years, a system that allowed over 1 billion people to access basically all the world's knowledge in a matter of seconds. We in this room, we in technology, have a greater capacity to change the world than the kings and presidents of even 100 years ago. We're at this unprecedented moment in civilization where suddenly this tiny number of people have the ability to have huge world-shaping impact on everyone in the world. It was just 10 years ago that these guys were sitting in their dorm room, and today Facebook connects over 1 billion people. Now, no company is perfect, but the impact that Facebook has had is undeniable. As just one small example, Jared Cohen of the State Department said that Facebook's mere existence in 5 years did more to improve relationships between Arabs and Israelis than 30 years of coordinated attempts by governments. This is a photo. This is a photo of a Facebook page called Israel Loves Iran. It was put up by one father. And it inspired this movement spontaneously, where hundreds of thousands of Israelis posted similar photos saying, Israel loves Iran, and hundreds of thousands of Iranians responded saying, Iran loves Israel. More companies every day are poised to have influence on world-shaping problems. I look at Tesla, that's poised to radically reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. Or I look at Khan Academy, that's bringing education and making it accessible to places it just never was before. I mean, this is incredible. Basically, technology has empowered us with this unprecedented degree of leverage, as in the amount of impact that we can have in tiny amounts of time with really small numbers of people. And so the question we want to look at here is, how do we want to be using all that power? How do you want to be using that power? I say, let's do great things. Let's do things that really substantively work to help humanity thrive. Let's solve the big problems, and let's dedicate our energy to consciously moving the world in the direction of our dreams. Now, your dreams may be different than my dreams, but I'm just saying life is short, especially if you're going to spend some of the best years of your life working your ass off. Do something that matters deeply to you and to the world. And what's so amazing about being in technology is that we don't even have to sacrifice our personal well-being in order to do this. I mean, it would be insensitive for me to give this talk in most industries. If you're struggling to, make ends meet, if you're working on, just making sure you're avoiding unemployment, there's no way you can think about making sure your work is helping humanity thrive. But for us, who have been lucky enough to have the opportunities we have to be born at the right place at the right time with the right education, we can have our cake and eat it too. And so I would say settle for nothing less than being in the intersection of doing work that both helps humanity thrive and at the same time helps you thrive. Are you there yet? Are you squarely in that intersection? And if not, I would say do what it takes to get there, even if it requires quitting your job. Each of us will spend, on average, 80,000 hours on our careers. And what's amazing is that we get to consciously make a decision about how we're going to take that huge amount of time and apply it to making the projects that we care about come to life. Don't just get stuck in the whirlpool of day-to-day responsibility and forget to look up and ask yourself, how am I using those hours overall? I'm here because I do see people settle for less than working in this intersection. And I believe working from this intersection is essential to a deeply happy life. But mostly I'm here because the more of us who choose to work in that intersection, the more beautiful the world will become. And I want to live in the beautiful world that we can create together. So whether you're an individual contributor, a leader, a venture capitalist, or a member of the press, I want you to walk out knowing concretely how you can marry your vision with your talent in order to build the world you want to see. So society often gives us this dichotomy. It says you can either do one or the other. You can either work really hard in order to make the world a better place, work for a nonprofit, but you're going to end up making a lot of sacrifices in the process. Or you can make a bunch of money, but you're going to miss out on the opportunity to really contribute your gifts to the world. And I just want to reject this as a totally false dichotomy. Especially in technology, you can be the change and make the money at the same time. So as an example, my first job out of college was at Google. And of course, the compensation package they were offering was important to me. But there were several companies that could have offered me that compensation. The reason I went to work for Google is because Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. That is a hell of a mission. The idea that I could be even one small part of organizing the world's information, this was a no-brainer decision to take this job. And I'm inspired by more and more companies that I see that are really helping humanity thrive. I look at Lyft, Zipcar, and Uber that have the potential to use ride-sharing to decimate the number of cars that need to be manufactured each year. In fact, both Lyft and Zipcar were founded by people who were environmentalists before they were entrepreneurs. I look at Solar City, which Elon Musk is on the board of, which is rapidly accelerating our transition to using solar paneling in residences. I look at Quora, that's using software to take information out of people's heads and make it accessible to everyone in the world. I look at Coursera, that's bringing a first-class education to people all over the world today. I look at ResearchGate, that's using advances in transparency and communication to accelerate the rate at which we're doing research. But I also am really inspired by companies that you wouldn't necessarily think of as so high and mighty at first. I think about Amazon Web Services. These guys are building this core layer of infrastructure that then allows, I think, most of the companies I just mentioned to build on top and do great things. So these are companies that are really seizing the opportunity. And notably, all the companies I just mentioned are, $500 million, billion, $5 billion market cap companies. So the people who work at these companies are just consciously choosing to work in this intersection of doing stuff that's really valuable to the world and is making them money and helping them thrive as well. Okay, so by now I may have triggered some of your cynicism alarms. In fact, how many people here have seen the HBO series Silicon Valley? Yeah, so it opens with a scene of this douchey entrepreneur who's just sold his company. And he gets up on stage and he's like, guys, we're making a lot of money. But the important thing is that we're making the world a better place through hierarchically distributed software. And this is funny because it's true. It's true that there are a ton of people in our industry who are clearly just out to make a bunch of money for themselves and are using the lip service of making the world a better place in order to look better. But it's also true that hierarchically distributed systems are making the world a better place. In fact, I was watching the show on YouTube, a site that couldn't exist without those hierarchically distributed systems. And YouTube not only is an entertainment platform, but it's really revolutionizing the way that we do education, the way that artists are able to make a living. I once heard someone make this great analogy that, in order to be alive, I need to make red blood cells. But the purpose of being alive is not to make red blood cells. In the same way, for a company to survive, it needs to have cash flow. It needs to pay people well. But the point of starting a company shouldn't be to make money. Facebook put this well in their S1 when they said, we don't build services to make money. We make money to build better services. What all these companies we admire have in common is that they're deeply mission-oriented. They're using the vast resources at their disposal in order to change the world, in order to intentionally, consciously design the world in the direction of their values and imaginations. And design can take many forms. It often comes down to the daily decisions that we make. So it's just one small example. I was an engineer at Facebook back in 2007, and we had one of those all-night hackathons. And one of the ways I would love to design the world is I want to live in a world in which people affirm each other, in which people build each other up and support each other. And so we worked all night trying some things, and we thought, what if we could make the path of least resistance to help people do that? And by morning, we had something we called the awesome button, but today it's called the like button. And to this day, the #1 feature request that Facebook gets is for a dislike button. Now you might say, you should give